Ever get that feeling? Like you just hit a wall,
Mhm.
trying to learn something new. Maybe you're prepping for a tech interview or just trying to, I don't know, just understand this whole coding world.
Yeah,
And suddenly you're just stuck.
absolutely.
Right. But what if I told you that stuck could actually be a good thing? Especially when you're trying to learn to code.
Interesting.
It is. And that's why I am so excited about this deep dive.
Mhm.
You sent over this Algo Academy blog post. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
It really digs into this idea of reframing coding challenges.
Yeah.
Basically, it's saying that those moments when you can't figure out a problem, that's actually a prime learning opportunity.
Yes, it is.
So it connects it to this idea of a growth mindset,
Right.
which I know psychologist Carol Dweck has done like a ton of research
Yeah,
on.
she's like the. Okay, so tell me more about this growth mindset. It's about more than just like positive thinking, right?
Right, yeah. It's really about a fundamental shift in how you view your abilities.
So instead of thinking, I'm not good at this, you start thinking, I'm not good at this yet.
Right.
Instead of seeing your abilities as fixed, you see them as something that you can develop through effort and learning.
So it's like embracing the process,
Exactly.
even the messy parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And this has been huge in my coding journey. Like, I've seen this play out so many times.
Oh, really?
I remember when I was first learning about algorithms, I struggled for weeks trying to understand a particular sorting algorithm.
Oh, yeah.
I was ready to give up. I was convinced that I just wasn't cut out for this.
I can relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
Algorithms can be tough.
But I really had to shift my thinking. Instead of focusing on my frustration, I started asking myself, what specifically am I struggling with?
Oh, interesting.
And I realized I didn't fully grasp the concept of time complexity, like how the efficiency of an algorithm changes as the amount of data grows.
Yeah, so the struggle actually pinpointed a gap in your knowledge.
Precisely. Once I identified that gap, I could focus my learning on that specific area. I dug into some resources on time complexity, I experimented with different code implementations, and eventually it clicked.
That is such a great example of how a growth mindset can actually help you become a better coder.
Right.
It's not just about like feeling good, it's about, using those moments to guide your learning.
Exactly. And the Algo Academy post argues that this struggle isn't just helpful, it's actually good for you.
Okay, now you're going to have to explain that one to
I
me.
know, right?
How can struggling be a good thing?
It might seem counterintuitive, but the post highlights 4 key benefits of struggle specific to coding.
Yep.
The first is that it leads to deeper learning.
Okay.
When you wrestle with a problem, you engage with the material on a much deeper level than if you were just passively absorbing information.
So it's like the difference between reading about a place and actually traveling there.
Yeah,
You experience it firsthand.
perfect analogy. The second is that it builds up your problem-solving skills.
Okay.
Every time you hit a roadblock and figure out a way around it, you're adding a new tool to your problem-solving toolkit.
So instead of just memorizing answers, you're developing a process.
Exactly. Which brings us to the third benefit. It increases resilience. Coding can be tough, and there will be times when you just want to throw your computer out the window.
Oh, believe me, I've been there.
But pushing through those tough moments, finding a solution, that builds up your mental toughness.
Okay.
You start to see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to learn and grow.
And that resilience is so important, especially in the tech world where things are constantly changing,
Right.
always learning new things.
And finally, the post argues that struggling can actually boost your creativity.
Oh, wow.
When your usual approaches aren't working, you're forced to think outside the box, experiment with different approaches, and maybe even come up with a completely new solution.
So hitting a wall can spark innovation.
Exactly. Now, I know all this sounds great in theory, but how do we actually put this reframing into practice?
That's a great question.
When we're like knee-deep in code and feeling completely lost.
Totally. And that's what we're going to dive into next.
Okay.
The Algo Academy post lays out 5 practical strategies for turning those stuck moments into actionable steps.
I'm eager to hear them.
All right, so we've talked about the benefits of a growth mindset
Right.
and how struggling can actually be good for us as coders,
Yeah.
especially when we're learning.
Yeah.
Now let's get to that practical stuff.
Yeah.
What are these 5 strategies? I know the Algo Academy post suggests these for, turning those stuck moments into actual progress.
The first strategy is all about analyzing the problem.
Okay.
It sounds simple, but so often when we hit a roadblock, we just get so overwhelmed by the big picture and don't take the time to break things down.
Yeah, it's like that saying, how do you eat an elephant?
Exactly.
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time, instead of freaking out because you can't solve the entire problem. Just ask yourself, what are the specific inputs and outputs?
Okay.
What parts do I understand, and what parts are tripping me up?
So you're basically identifying the precise source of your confusion.
Right. And the post uses a great example here. Imagine you're trying to implement a binary search algorithm.
Okay, hold on. Can we back up for a second?
Yeah.
For those of us who are newer to coding,
hmm
what exactly is an algorithm?
Oh, that's a great question. An algorithm is basically a set of instructions for solving a problem.
Okay.
It's like a recipe that tells the computer exactly what steps to take to achieve a specific outcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a binary search algorithm is like a specific recipe for finding something within a set of data.
Exactly. And what makes binary search special is that it's incredibly efficient, especially when dealing with large data sets.
Okay.
But that efficiency comes with some specific requirements, like the data needing to be sorted in a particular way.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So back to analyzing the problem. If I'm struggling with binary search, I might realize that, okay, my sticking point is understanding how to keep track of which part of the data to search next.
Exactly. And by pinpointing that specific struggle, you can then focus your learning on understanding how the algorithm uses indexes and boundaries to narrow down the search.
So the struggle actually guides your learning process.
Precisely.
I love that. Okay, what's the second strategy?
This one is all about documentation, specifically documenting your thought process as you work through a problem.
Okay.
This could mean keeping a coding journal or even just writing comments within your code.
You know me, I'm all about taking notes.
Right.
But I used to think of code comments as like just explaining what the code does.
Yeah.
How does that help with getting unstuck?
It's not just about explaining the what, it's about explaining the why.
Okay.
Why did you choose this particular approach? What were you thinking when you wrote this line of code? What other options did you consider?
So even if my code doesn't work, those comments create a record of my thought process.
Exactly. And then when you inevitably hit a roadblock, you can go back and see where you might have gone wrong, what you tried, and what alternative approaches you might explore.
It's like leaving breadcrumbs for yourself so you can retrace your steps,
Exactly.
figure out where you got lost.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. What's strategy number 3?
This one is called the Feynman technique, named after the physicist Richard Feynman.
Oh, cool.
He was known for his ability to explain complex concepts in simple, intuitive ways.
You know, I actually really admire that ability because sometimes I feel like the more I learn about coding, the less I can explain it to anyone else.
That's where the Feynman technique comes in handy. It's about forcing yourself to break down a concept into its simplest form as if you were explaining it to someone with no technical background.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I were trying to explain binary search to, like, my grandma, I'd have to come up with an analogy that makes sense to her.
Exactly. And in doing so, you might realize that you don't actually understand the concept as well as you thought you did.
Yeah, it exposes those gaps in your knowledge.
Right. And sometimes the best way to really understand something is to try to teach it to someone else.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try this Feynman technique.
Yeah.
Seems like a fun way to learn. What's strategy number 4?
This one emphasizes the importance of seeking multiple perspectives.
Okay.
When you're stuck on a problem, it can be incredibly helpful to just step outside your own head and see how others have approached the same challenge.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big believer in the power of diverse viewpoints.
Right.
So what are some ways to get those different perspectives?
There are so many options. You could join a coding community,
Hmm.
attend meetups, or even just reach out to other coders online and ask how they would approach the problem.
Yeah, and we can't forget about all those amazing online resources. I mean, there's forums, blog posts, video tutorials.
Absolutely. And even if you think you understand the concept, seeing it explained in a different way or seeing a different approach to the code can often spark a new understanding or give you an idea you hadn't considered before.
Plus, it's just reassuring to know you're not alone in your struggles.
Exactly. And the Algo Academy post even mentions using AI-powered tools for this purpose.
Oh, interesting.
Their platform offers hints and explanations that are tailored to the specific challenges you're facing.
It's like having a personalized coding tutor.
Right. And these tools aren't about giving you the answers, but rather nudging you in the right direction and helping you see the problem from a new angle.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, we're on to the final strategy. What's number 5?
This one is a simple shift in language, but it can be incredibly powerful.
Okay.
It's about embracing the power of yet.
We've talked about this a bit already with growth mindset, but I'm ready to dive deeper.
Yeah.
How does simply adding yet to my vocabulary actually help me become a better coder?
It's all about reframing your self-talk.
Okay.
Instead of saying, I can't do this, you say, I can't do this yet.
Hmm.
It's a subtle change, but it completely alters your perspective.
Instead of seeing your current inability as, a sign of failure,
Yeah.
you see it as a temporary state on the path to mastery.
Precisely. It acknowledges that learning is a process,
Okay.
that you're not expected to know everything right away,
Yeah.
and that your current struggle is simply a part of that journey.
It's about embracing the process,
Exactly.
even the messy parts.
Now, the Aldo Academy post goes on to talk about this idea of iteration,
Okay.
and it emphasizes how each attempt at solving a problem, even the ones that don't lead to a perfect solution, teaches you something valuable.
I'm intrigued by this idea of iteration.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? What do they mean by each attempt?
They break down the learning process into 4 main stages.
Okay.
First attempt, code review, optimization, and variations.
Okay, so walk me through these stages.
Okay, so the first attempt is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, you just dive in and try to solve the problem.
You dive in and you try to solve the problem based on your initial understanding. And this first attempt might lead to a working solution, it might not,
Yeah.
but either way, it's a valuable learning experience.
Sure.
Then comes code review,
Okay.
which can be a bit nerve-wracking, but ultimately so helpful.
Yeah.
This is where you get feedback on your code from another coder, whether it's a peer, a mentor, or even an AI-powered tool.
And that feedback might point out errors in your logic or suggest more efficient ways to write the code.
Yeah, or even challenge your entire approach to the problem.
It's all about getting that outside perspective,
Exactly.
learning from others' experiences.
Right.
Okay, so we've written our code, we've gotten feedback. What's next?
Next comes optimization.
Okay.
Now that you have a working solution,
Yeah.
it's time to think about how you can make it better. This could mean making your code more efficient, more readable, or more scalable.
So it's not just about getting the code to work, it's about refining it,
Exactly.
making it the best that it can be.
And this optimization stage often involves researching different coding techniques, experimenting with different approaches, and even diving deeper into the underlying concepts.
So it's about taking your code to the next level.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm loving this iterative process.
Right.
What's that final stage?
The final stage is all about exploring variations.
Okay.
This could involve trying to implement the same algorithm using a different approach, like recursion instead of iteration, or trying to solve the same problem using a completely different algorithm.
So you're basically challenging yourself to think outside the box.
Right.
Come up with multiple solutions to the same problem.
And this exploration can be incredibly beneficial because it deepens your understanding of the concepts involved and helps you develop a more flexible and adaptable coding style.
Yeah, this whole iterative approach really highlights that learning to code is a continuous journey.
Right.
It's not just about finding the right answer and moving on.
I couldn't have said it better myself, and the Algo Academy post argues that this mindset, this embrace of struggle and iteration, has long-term benefits that extend far beyond just your coding skills.
Okay, I'm all about those long-term benefits. Let's hear them. What are these amazing benefits that await us if we embrace the struggle?
We've already touched on some of them.
Okay.
Improved problem-solving skills, increased resilience, deeper understanding of coding concepts, and even a boost in creativity.
Okay, those all sound amazing.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one that really resonates with me, it would be that deeper understanding. Yeah, it's about moving beyond just memorizing syntax
Yeah.
and truly grasping the why behind the how.
I agree. That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
And thinking about you, the listener, whether your goal is to land a specific job in tech, satisfy your intellectual curiosity, or just feel more comfortable navigating a world that's increasingly reliant on code, this approach can be transformative.
It's about developing a mindset that's adaptable, resilient, always open to learning, becoming a lifelong learner.
Beautifully put. And while the Algo Academy post focuses on the context of coding, I think this entire mindset, this idea of reframing challenges as opportunities, has applications that reach far beyond the realm of programming.
I absolutely agree. I'm already starting to think about areas in my own life where I could benefit from this shift in perspective.
Maybe it's in your personal relationships, your approach to creative pursuits, or even your attitude towards those everyday challenges that inevitably pop up.
It's about recognizing that struggle is a natural part of growth,
Right.
and that our attitude towards those struggles can make all the difference.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought.
All right, so we're back, ready to wrap up this deep dive into reframing those coding challenges.
It's been really fascinating, hasn't it? Exploring how just like a little shift in our mindset
Right?
can totally change those moments of, into like, moments. Right.
Yeah, from to aha.
Exactly.
All right, so we talked about growth mindset.
Right.
We talked about the kind of surprising benefits of struggling. And then we talked about those 5 practical strategies
Yes.
to turn those stuck moments
Yes.
into like real progress.
Yeah.
Right? Actual learning.
Absolutely. And we even got into, the details of
Yes.
applying those strategies
Right.
to like an actual problem, like the binary search algorithm,
Yeah.
which is a
Yeah.
classic.
Classic example.
And hopefully along the way, we've kind of,
Debunk the myth.
debunked the myth that you need to be some kind of genius to
Yeah.
be good at this.
I think it's-
Anybody can do this.
Yeah. And it's not about knowing everything. It's
Ah.
really just about developing a process,
Yeah.
a way of thinking that allows you to kind of tackle any of those challenges, right?
It's a skill set
No matter how intimidating they seem at first.
that will serve you well beyond coding, right?
Exactly. And I think that's really what I find so inspiring about this whole,
Yeah.
reframing idea.
It's powerful.
It's not just about like making coding less frustrating.
Yeah.
It's about really like giving yourself a toolkit for lifelong learning,
Right.
Problem solving.
Absolutely. And so I want to leave you, the listener,
Right.
with a challenge.
Okay, I like a good challenge.
We've talked about how this reframing mindset, can transform your approach to coding. But what other areas of your life
Oh, I like that.
could benefit from this kind of shift in perspective?
It's so easy to get stuck in our ways of thinking
Right.
and to just see challenges as like roadblocks instead of,
Detours.
detours on the path to something.
Yeah, or like
Very
even
better.
like stepping stones, you know?
Stepping stones, exactly.
Each struggle is like
Taking you high.
a step up.
Yeah, exactly.
So I encourage you to take a moment and think about where you might be holding yourself back,
Yeah.
With that fixed mindset,
Yeah.
maybe it's in your relationships.
Mm.
Maybe it's with your career aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's even with, your creative pursuits. Anything.
Or in like our approach to personal growth, well-being.
Exactly.
Yeah, all of it.
So what would it look like to approach those areas with that growth mindset, right?
Right. Yeah.
To embrace those challenges and see them as opportunities
Yeah.
for learning and evolution.
Love that. And you know what? Maybe that stuck moment that's been so frustrating
Yes,
is actually the catalyst
it
to
is.
your next breakthrough,
It is, yeah.
your next level up,
Your next,
your next big adventure
or your next aha
moment.
Yes, your next aha moment. So good.
Right. So go out there, embrace the challenges,
Yes,
and just watch yourself flourish.
I love that.
Right.
And hey, if you ever need a reminder, of the power of reframing,
Yes.
just come back and listen to this deep dive again.
Yeah, we'll be here
We'll be here.
cheering you on. All right. Well, happy coding, everyone,
Happy coding,
and happy growing.
happy growing.